Hi, Stacy. Thanks for coming on.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Can you please tell us a little about yourself? What do you do?
My name is Stacy Andersen, and I'm currently leading a company called IMPACT Proximity, which is part of Omnicom, and we focus on web and app development, CX, UX, UI, but my background is a career primarily rooted in the US, but I've been in Dubai for 9 years working across multiple different agencies in various different positions.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's great about your day job, and a lot of us are trying to venture out of our day jobs. I know you're launching a podcast, so
Yep.
tell us a bit about that.
Okay, so I am launching a podcast. I'm currently very busy with production mode. The
Right.
podcast name is Supergene Unleashed. And actually, it's kind of funny because my nickname is the Supergene. I was given this nickname, maybe 15 years ago by my best friend. And the podcast is entirely focused on female empowerment. And so it's not just empowerment within your career, for instance, it's also can be within a relationship. It can be defying societal norms, and it also can be within yourself. So my main aim is to reach women and really empower them to embrace their inner super gene, or their inner superpower, and fearlessly be themselves.
I love that. I'm already excited. So I know we were talking earlier. I'm not going to give away anything. I'm already so excited. Can you tell us how you why you decided to do a podcast? Are you much of a podcast consumer yourself?
I am a podcast consumer, but I decided to do it because, to be honest with you, as I was on this venture of looking at what else can I do, what would fulfill me from, a perspective in life.
Yeah.
And I really love public speaking. It's something that I started when I moved out here. And I've always loved female empowerment. Being a woman, being especially a blonde woman, living in the Middle East, I've definitely faced a lot of different scenarios across the board, personal life, professional life, and I've also been a mentor to different women, and I really enjoyed that work. So I thought, how can I amplify it and reach a wider audience? And as such, I've decided to do the podcast as a means to bring, stories to life of everyday women that are facing different things, and really to build a platform of relatability is what I'm after.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, actually. I personally think everyone should venture out, not just to explore their creativity, but also to look at giving back in some way. And I think that becomes really fulfilling whenever you do something with that kind of, I guess, that direction where you want to give back. So I think that's fantastic. I'm super, super excited. While we're on the subject of podcasting, what do you think about podcasting in advertising space?
I think that it's an incredibly untapped market. So obviously, as you know, I have been in digital media for a very long time. And when I moved here 9 years ago, I left New York City, and I was working with some pretty major advertisers. And at that point in time, 9 years ago, they were just starting to kind of dabble in the space. And it wasn't really mature. There was a lot of repetition because it just wasn't a mature channel. Now, fast forward, having been here, when I came here, it really wasn't even much in existence whatsoever. So what I think about it is that podcasting, as many people have said in many different talks, it has a unique advantage as a media whereby you're really capturing the audience's attention.
Yeah,
and I actually
a singular
heard
audience.
Yeah, but it's about having just a singular sense. And for instance, I listened to Malcolm Gladwell speak about this exact topic, and he literally asked the audience, close your eyes and just listen to what I'm saying. And then he wanted you to open your eyes, and he repeated the same thing. And when you just heard it, and that was your only activated sense, it resonated a little bit more deeply. So all that to say that I think advertisers definitely can take advantage of this attention, and that relatively it is an untapped market for them to venture into.
Surprisingly enough. I have two questions on that, actually. On your last point, when you said, I know that today's phenomena, and everyone's talking about it, podcasting space is a lot more about video podcasting. I'm personally an audio podcast consumer. I don't really watch. I like to do things while I'm listening to my podcast. What's your personal narrative and what's your business opinion on this as well?
It's so funny because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I also only consume podcasts via audio, and it's also ironic because I often hear the, podcast host or whoever I'm listening to say, "Oh, if you're watching this on YouTube, you could see, whatever they're talking about."
Yeah.
And I try to make a mental note like, "Oh, I should actually go check that out," but then I never do. From a business perspective, what I think is that video is still very important as a mechanism to drive traffic to your podcast. If you are a business that has a podcast, I think that the two work very much in tandem because there are different listeners or, viewers, if you will, tuning into their preferred platform. So it's really a trial and error. And I think that what I've seen is a lot of focus is for long form to be audio only and then short form to be within YouTube, Insta, TikTok, and these kind of platforms. So I really think it's a trial and error because the listenership can vary from person to person.
Yeah, because all your audiences consume content really differently. Like we could have the same hobbies, but I would decide that I want to consume it one way or the other. It's how you deliver your what content you deliver to me, I suppose, is also important.
Well, exactly. And the other thing is like, for instance, your long form, if you are doing full video recording and you post that to Insta or TikTok, let's say, and you post just like a quick snippet, someone might see that quick snippet and then be driven to listen to your podcast.
100%.
So that's why I'm saying it's a bit of a two-way street. And as a brand, as an advertiser, they can capitalize on both of those environments.
I agree 100%. Now we're going to shift a little bit of the conversation, and I'd like to ask you about your move from New York to Dubai. That was 9 years ago. How was that cultural shift for you?
It was extremely eye-opening. I will be totally blunt about it. It was night and day, to be honest with you, because the pace of New York, they call it a New York minute for a reason. I know that a lot of people here laugh at me when I say that, and they say that Dubai is extremely fast-paced, which it can be, but my experience in New York was that it was even more fast-paced, and what I mean is more the decisions that are made are quicker. Whereas here, I think that work moves quickly, but decisions can take longer. The other nuance that was different for me coming here was I was very used to meetings that were moving quick, staying on time, on track. And then when I came here, a lot of the meetings were much more relaxed and, someone maybe having a cigarette and a coffee.
Yes.
And certainly did not have any meetings with cigarettes involved in the U.S. So it took a little bit of time for me to adjust to the nuances. But that being said, I'm grateful for the different lessons that I learned along the way. And I like to think that it has made me a bit more adaptable.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because the exposure to different cultures here is just so much greater.
Do you think that the cultural diversity is much more than it was in New York, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because to a certain degree, although you have a lot of people that, come to the U.S. that are from other countries, in a way, they become a little bit Americanized, and the majority of the work culture is driven by Americans. And Americans, when we work, we can switch between business and friendship with the snap of a finger. Like I can switch from literally being your best friend to then having to take a leadership position. And we do that. We don't take any feelings into account, but I realize now living here that can come off a little bit abrupt to people.
That's interesting, actually. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I feel like I've had great friendships with clients I've worked with, and when it comes to the work call, you're my client, and after 6 we can be friends again. I know that boundary, but I think you're right. A lot of people here don't follow that, so I can imagine that will be a shift. If I were to ask you, if there was one thing that you wish that was in the guidelines or in the manual when you moved out here, or even starting your podcast, maybe two guidebooks. One is moving from New York to Dubai, and one starting a podcast. What would you wish you had?
So for the move from New York to Dubai, honestly, it was pretty seamless in terms of like setting up a bank account, finding an apartment, and these things, because I was fortunate that the company I worked for helped facilitate that. However, I wish that there would have been maybe access to finding people like me, maybe a little bit easier to make new friends with similar hobbies, because that was very difficult. And then in terms of starting my own podcast, I really wish that there was just a bullet point list, A to Z, saying, number one, do this, do that. Number two, do that. Because yes, there's an abundance of information. I have found some really great blogs and resources. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know which source to trust, But I will say that the best manual or tip that I ever had was when I was fortunate enough to talk to the iHeart crew at Web Summit. And one of the speakers that they had literally said, just start. Just, don't focus on perfection. Just get something out there. And I would say that is a quote that is remaining in my head. Because I am a bit of a perfectionist, and so I'm trying to constantly balance my perfectionism with this piece of advice.
That is gold, because it's so simple, because we always get stuck in the not good enough space, and I think that it's such a simple thing, but it's such a reminder that everybody needs. No matter what you do, whatever you're thinking, just start. It's never gonna be perfect. It's gonna change with the circumstances, it's gonna change with the time. And just start. So simple. Yeah. But I think it applies to everything, and that's amazing. And I'm glad you're starting, because I'm excited.
The other piece that I was also told was actually from Mel Robbins, and she was probably the best manual or A to Z steps. She basically laid out, I think it was 6 simple steps to achieve any goal, literally any goal. And one of the steps, and where she called out, is probably the biggest reason why people who start a venture don't continue, is because it's the most boring, and that is putting in the reps. And it's literally showing up every day, no matter how you feel, and putting in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, half hour, whatever. But it's putting in that every day, chipping away at the goal is what's going to get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there are a lot of controversial opinions about Mel Robbins, but I love her. She got me through a really tough year, and I follow a lot of her guidelines. And I think people should check out if they are doubting themselves on starting a business or starting a project, because it's not that deep, guys. Just do it.
Yeah,
I guess,
exactly.
Thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you so much.
So nice chatting with you.
You too.
And I'm excited for your podcast. We can't wait to hear more about it.
Thank you so much.